Let's return, though, to that story. Peter Dutton having given a pretty interesting and thought-provoking speech at the National Press Club. Let's get the thoughts straight away of Brendan O'Connor, the Shadow Defence Minister. Thanks for your time. Your thoughts on what you've just been listening to?
Well, thanks very much, Tom. I think that clearly the government has a lot to explain with respect to its recent words on the possible escalation or conflict or war with China. I don't think the minister in any way explained why he suggests it's inconceivable that we would not have a war with a superpower China if there was an invasion of Taiwan. I think he has every right to say that we have to be prepared for the worst and obviously look to ensure the best possible outcome in our region. But I do not think using for political purposes war rhetoric has been useful, has been helpful, and it has in any way been wise. And I guess, I expect the Prime Minister to rein him in, frankly. Now, the areas, of course, that we agree with the government are these. We will not back down to the list of demands from China. We support the government when it comes to defending our values and our interests in this region. But we believe we are better placed in ensuring that AUKUS happens and is implemented properly, that we do engage fully with the reinvigorated Quad, that we do engage with ASEAN, and we work diplomatically to avoid potential conflict.
So do you agree that the AUKUS deal you mentioned, once that's tied up, if you like, and we are closer to the US, that makes it more likely if the US does come to Taiwan's defence that we would join the US?
Well, I think that's the sort of hypothetical questions that have got the minister into trouble. Of course, we're a good friend and we have no better ally than the United States. And I have to say it was Labor that certainly welcomed the election of the Biden administration. And it's through the election of the Biden administration we've seen the resurrection of Quad and indeed the arrangement with AUKUS, which Labor fully supports. And we made that very clear. So I don't think it's in the national interest. The Defence Minister publicly states that the other major party, the alternative government, is in any way against those propositions. In fact, we support them and we've said so. And I think that's really irresponsible of the Defence Minister to misrepresent Labor's views in relation to the region, in relation to China, and in relation to other matters.
So the review of AUKUS Labor's spoken about, if that review, looking at that deal more closely and whatever it involves, couldn't that, by definition, actually come up about you go, well, we're not sure this is the best path forward and perhaps AUKUS doesn't proceed under your watch?
No, not at all. Not at all. We immediately supported the threshold decision made by the government. Anthony Albanese, Penny Wong, Richard Marles and myself were briefed, and we briefed the Cabinet. There was a unanimous position, and indeed with caucus as well. Labor supports AUKUS. It's in our best interests, but we also support the engagement in the region through other important bodies, including ASEAN. And we also agree we need to make sure that our defence assets are there for our ADF and for our nation. But at the moment, the government's presiding over some very bad contracts that are not delivering the assets that our ADF require.
Let me just go to something else in Peter Dutton's speech. He said we need to realise with Taiwan, as we're weighing up what we might do in that situation, that won't satisfy China, that the Senkakus Islands would be next. Do you agree this would not just be a final step by China?
Well, this is some sort of new domino theory that's been articulated by the Defence Minister, which has not been articulated by national security advisors or foreign policy experts. And frankly, it's again a bit of a frolic by the Defence Minister
to start.
Well, I don't think he should be suggesting that somehow China has got claims on the entire region. What evidence does he have?
But don't we just look at the 9 dash line and say that those China claims do go very broadly? Isn't that the evidence?
Well, I think look, and this is the thing. What we're concerned about, Tom, is this. Of course, we have to take every step to prepare ourselves for the worst. Of course, we have to invest and ensure that we have the best deterrent possible to avoid conflict or war. But I don't think it does us any good to be suggesting that there's somehow some domino theory that's been, it's a theory of 50 years ago is brought back into the language of the government about China's ambitions. I think it's fair to say that we need to, of course, provide the assets, and that's not happening to date. I mean, think about the subs, Tom. We started 9 years ago. This government was elected in 2013. They went to the Japanese, they contracted with the French, and now 9 years on, we're back to square one. We don't have any boats in the water, and they're not coming until 2040 or beyond. We've got a capability gap with the Collins class and whatever comes out of AUKUS. We need to do better in relation to assets. I just say to the Minister, if I can just say this, Tom, he has to speak less and do more. He has to speak less and prepare us better rather than using war rhetoric unnecessarily, which is just heightening tensions.
Just finally, we're nearly out of time, but he also characterised Paul Keating's view on China as essentially one of appeasement, referencing Neville Chamberlain. Do you agree?
Look, the appeaser in our country's history is Robert Menzies. He made Chamberlain look like Churchill. Let's remember his views on Hitler before World War II. The fact is, Paul Keating doesn't speak.
What about Paul Keating?
Paul Keating does not speak for the Federal Parliamentary Labor Party. Anthony Albanese, Penny Wong, myself and others have made clear our position with respect to these matters. There's no good for Peter Dutton to start suggesting otherwise. The reality is our decisions have been made. It is the Federal Parliamentary Labor Party that make those decisions, and we've made them in those particular areas already.